miss teaching all of you. I hope you and your families are all doing well. One advantage though to this whole situation that we all find ourselves in is that I can show you my studio. So I have a studio at my house. It's on the 3rd floor, and let's go in and see it. So, as some of you know, I'm a portrait artist and a children's book illustrator. So this is my easel. Right now I'm working on a portrait of Abby, making a daisy chain or flower chain. I have my pastels here that I can roll out when I work. This is how one of my finished pastels look. And I have a nice view. I'm grateful for the nice view of the flowering trees outside. So this is where I'm going to be teaching you your lesson right here in my studio. So we are going to be looking at an artist called William Morris. On your lesson you'll see this image of one of his most famous designs called Strawberry Thief. So in the 3rd graders, we've been studying art of the Middle Ages all this year. And William Morris was actually an artist that lived hundreds of years after the Middle Ages, but was inspired by, if you remember, we studied medieval tapestries, like this famous one of the unicorn, which you can probably see more clearly on your lesson. He was inspired by medieval designs, and he and the group of artists that he worked with started a movement called the Arts and Crafts Movement, and they actually preferred the art of the Middle Ages to the art of their day, and they were trying to bring that back a little bit. And this image was created using the technique of block printing. So if 3rd grade, you probably remember maybe one of the last days we were at school, I showed you how they used to make playing cards by rolling ink out onto a plate, and you can get multiple copies of the same design. So here is one of my blocks. This is where I work on my wood block printing. So this design, the Strawberry Thief, would have been carved into something a lot like this, and then they would roll the ink out onto it. I'm going to choose to do this in green. Here I did it in silver and yellow. And the advantage is that you can really print the same image in as many different colors as you want. So then they would roll the ink out, lay a piece of paper over, and press down. They, of course, would have a big industrial press where they could make big rolls of wallpaper from William Morris's designs. Let's see how this came out here. So there's my print. You can see it's very similar to that one. And I have my little blossom that I could add. Maybe I'll add it in, I think in gold. Gold is a little runny. Let's see if we can get it to behave. And then I could add the blossoms to it. They're coming out more softly in the gold and green than they do with the silver and the yellow. So that's how they would print William Morris's designs. So here's an example in your lesson of what one of the plates looked like. He was also inspired by the art of Japanese block printing for this very reason. So your first step to this lesson, I really hope that even though we all have to be separate from one another, that you've been getting outside as much as you can. It's a blessing that we can still go outside. Hopefully you've been on a walk around your neighborhood, or you've been on a hike. And as you can see, William Morris's artwork was inspired by things that he saw in nature. So the first thing I want you to do is go out in nature, in your backyard or on a walk around the neighborhood, and pick some different leaves or flowers that you find interesting. There's so many beautiful plants bursting into bloom right now. There's cherry blossoms blooming. So there's even a poem that I've included in your lesson about the joy of going out and making sure that you enjoy the spring when it's that time of year. So once you've collected some different leaves and flowers that you find interesting, you can get out a regular piece of copy paper, and I'm going to fold it into quarters. You'll notice with William Morris's design, it has what we call a repeat. If you folded it in half, one side would be the mirror image of the other, a lot like what the third graders, what we were doing with the playing cards project that we were working on. So this, folding it into quarters, will help me get that sort of feeling of a repeat that a design has. And then I want you to just sort of play around with the different interesting items you found in just that one square. Like, think about how could you arrange them to make a design. Maybe that seemed a little busy. Maybe I might have to break the twig off of some of these. I kind of like this one with maybe that there. Actually, I kind of like this there. So then you are going to carefully trace we're going to call these, for the sake of this lesson, natural forms. You can go ahead and trace it, and it's going to give you sort of an idea of your design elements. It's going to be a really rough trace that you do. I know so many of you are very good at drawing. So once you have sort of a basic design, you're going to go back in and add more detail. Maybe you want to play around with this design a little bit more. So I want you to experiment and see how many different patterns you can make. And once you find one that you kind of like, we can move to a more formal piece of paper. But the first step, once you kind of like what's going on in this square, you're going to flip over to the next, you can see that's the next half of my paper, and hold your natural form in at that same angle that you had it, and trace it again. To make a mirror image. And I'm going to hold this the same way. This seems like I almost do better drawing it than tracing it. You might find that with some of your images. Though I kind of like seeing the inside of that plant. So that's starting to create a design using my natural forms. And then you would do the same thing down here. This time, it would be, I'm going to hold it like that. And it would rotate kind of like that. Maybe like that. So once you've traced it all around, you'll hopefully get a more complete design like this one. And you can see with this design, I've gone back in, and where I had drawn my natural forms in more roughly, I have gone back and added more detail. So I added I really studied my natural forms, and I added the little veins on the leaf and tried to create the little textures of the seed pods. And this part of the design here, if you end up getting a design you like, but there's something you think is missing, like with this one, I added this little element here. That wasn't really a natural form I had around. I just thought I wanted to add a little geometric shape. If there are some geometric shapes you want to add, that works well too. And then we're going to be watercoloring these, but in order to make our design stand out more and get the effect that you can see in William Morris's Strawberry Thief, you can see that the background is a darker color than all of the natural elements. So you can go ahead and with the side of your pencil, neatly shade to just bring out those elements even more. And we're going to be talking about how to watercolor these designs next time. So make sure that you don't make your shading too dark. I would say like a medium shading like this will just help you sort of differentiate where your natural forms are and where your background is, so that when we go to paint, you have that clearly in your head. And it really helps you see your design better too. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in all the other areas here. So I'm really excited to see all the designs you come up with. Remember, you're going to experiment on your copy paper, whatever scrap paper you have. And then once you have a design you like, you're going to switch to the watercolor paper. And so I can't wait to see what you come up with. And we'll talk about how to add color next time.